Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This year marked my inaugural visit to the Jaipur Literature Festival, an event I have longed to experience. Amidst the bustling crowds and vibrant ambience, I immersed myself in a world of literary wonder. Join me for some glimpses of this literary extravaganza and soak in the vibrant atmosphere. The festival bookstore by Crossroad was a bibliophile's paradise, brimming with literary treasures. Rows of shelves adorned with books spanning genres beckoned avid readers to explore and discover. From bestsellers to hidden gems, there was something for every literary palate. As festival goers browsed through the aisles, the air was filled with the excitement of literary exploration. With each book chosen, a new adventure awaited, promising to transport readers to worlds unknown.
I'm a James head, and I thought this feels very, very Jamesian. But it's not that she's going to Henry James, it's that Henry James has come to her novel, which is so great. It's not epigonal in any way, it's wonderful. And then I discovered that she wrote her dissertation on Henry James.
I didn't know that.
Navigating the Jaipur Literature Festival's labyrinth of shopping stalls was a sensory delight. From intricately embroidered textiles to handcrafted jewelry, each stall beckoned with treasures waiting to be discovered. Vibrant colors and intricate designs adorned the displays, showcasing the rich craftsmanship of local artisans.
Completely defenseless, and that's a question, by the way, for the Israeli authorities of why the army was not there.
Grandmothers and children being hidden in basements.
And people hiding, exactly. That feeling of powerlessness and defenselessness, that, by the way, is very important to understanding the trauma now, when we've both been there and both been reporting from there. By the way, as a survivor of the Vilna ghetto, child survivor, he is implacably opposed to comparing what has gone on here with the Holocaust. So you can hold both these positions.
जिसे कहते हैं ना एग्जामिनर को कोई ना कोई टेक्स्ट बुक से बाहर के सवाल करना शुरू कर देता है। अब बताइए, हालांकि यतेंद्र मेरे साथ कोई 14 साल इस किताब के लिए घूमे हैं और 14 साल के बाद मैं अयोध्या पहुंचा।
आप कुछ भी विचलित करने वाला, कुछ भी डिस्कम्फर्ट में डालने वाला सवाल कर सकते हैं, जिरे कर सकते हैं। आपको पूरा स्पेस है कि गुलजार साहब आपसे बात करेंगे, आपको समझाएंगे, कन्विंस करेंगे और आपको आपकी राय के साथ छोड़ देंगे।
हम सब भाग रहे थे। चलिए एक मंजर आपको दिखा देता हूँ, आप अगर मेरे साथ चले। भीम जी बैठे हैं, बहुत अच्छा देख आप। हम सब भाग रहे थे, रिफ्यूजी थे। हम सब भाग रहे थे, रिफ्यूजी थे। माँ ने जितने जेवर थे सब पहन लिए थे, बांध लिए थे। छोटी मुझसे 6 सालों की, दूध पिला के खूब खिला के साथ लिया था, जो जरूरी समझा। हम सब भाग रहे थे, रिफ्यूजी थे। माँ ने जितने जेवर थे सब पहन लिए थे, बांध लिए थे। छोटी मुझसे 6 सालों की दूध पिला के खूब खिला के साथ लिया था। मैंने अपनी एक पमीरी और एक लाडू पायजामे में उड़स लिया था। मेरी दौलत उतनी थी, मेरी उम्र की, मेरे वैश्व की। पमीरी है जो यूं फिरकी घुमाने तो घूमती रहती है, और लाडू आप जानते हैं। मैंने अपनी एक पमीरी और एक लाडू पायजामे में उड़स लिया था। रात की रात हम गांव छोड़ के भाग रहे थे, रिफ्यूजी थे। आग, धुएं और चीख पुकार के जंगल से गुजरे थे सारे, अकेले नहीं, सभी थे। हम सबके सब घोर धुएं में भाग रहे थे। हाथ किसी आंधी की आंतें फाड़ रही थी, ये हालत थी। हाथ किसी आंधी की आंतें फाड़ रहे थी, फाड़ रहे थे। आंखें अपने जबड़े खोले भौंक रही थी। आंखें यूं लगता था डरी हुई, घबराहट, खौफ, गुस्सा। आंखें अपने जबड़े खोले भौंक रही थी, और मां ने दौड़ते दौड़ते खून की कैद कर दी थी। मां ने दौड़ते दौड़ते खून की कैद कर दी थी। जाने कब छोटी का मुझसे छूटा हाथ वहीं उसी दिन छोड़ आया था, फेंक आया था अपना बचपन। लेकिन मैंने सरहद के सन्नाटों के सहराओं में अक्सर देखा है, एक पमीरी अब भी नाचा करती है और एक लाडू अब भी घूम। ये एक स्टेज थी। उसके बाद मैं जो नाइटमेयर्स की बात करता हूँ आगे, कहीं ये ख्वाब में आना, ये लम्हे, ये वक्त छूट नहीं सकता। लेकिन वी हैव टू क्रॉस इट, वी हैव टू गो बैक, वी हैव टू कम बैक टू लाइफ। लेकिन एक जगह और आई। सुबह सुबह एक ख्वाब की दस्तक पर दरवाजा खोला। एक ख्वाब ने दस्तक दी मेरे दरवाजे पर आकर। सुबह सुबह एक ख्वाब की दस्तक पर दरवाजा खोला, देखा सरहद के उस पार से कुछ मेहमान आए। आंखों से मायूस थे सारे। पांव धोए, हाथ धुलाए, आंगन में आसन लगवाए। हमारा कल्चर है, हमारी तहजीब है, जो हम बांटते। पांव धोए, हाथ धुलाए, आंगन में आसन लगवाए, और तंदूर पे मक्की के कुछ मोटे मोटे रोट पकाए। पोटली में मेहमान मेरे पिछले सालों की फसलों का गुड़ लाए थे। आंख खुली तो देखा घर में कोई नहीं था। आंख खुली तो देखा घर में कोई नहीं था। हाथ लगाकर देखा तो तंदूर अभी तक बुझा नहीं था। आंख खुली तो देखा घर में कोई नहीं था। हाथ लगाकर देखा तो तंदूर अभी तक बुझा नहीं था, और होंठों पर मीठे गुड़ का साया अभी तक चिपक रहा था। ख्वाब था शायद, ख्वाब ही होगा। सरहद पर कल रात सुना है चली थी गोली। सरहद पर कल रात सुना है कुछ ख्वाबों का खून हुआ है। और लंबे चौड़े एक मैदान से गुजर रहा था। एक देहाती सर पर गुड़ की भेली बांधे लंबे चौड़े एक मैदान से गुजर रहा था। गुड़ की खुशबू सुनकर भिन भिन करती एक छतरी सर पे मंडराती थी। और आप सोच सकते हैं छतरी क्या होगी जो भिन भिन करती है, मक्खियां तो उड़ेंगी। गुड़ की खुशबू सूंघ के भिन भिन करती एक छतरी सर पे मंडलाती थी। धूप चढ़ी और सूरज की गर्मी पहुंची तो गुड़ की भेली बहने लगी। मासूम देहाती हैरान था। माथे से मीठे मीठे कतरे गिरते थे और वो जीभ से चाट रहा था। मैं देहाती, मेरे सर पर ये टैगोर की कविता भेजी किसने रख दी।
name was amazing, Urvashi. That gave me like, I want to do something. And so in passion of this work, I traveled all over India with Jayaprakash Narayan, who was moving the villages of India, all over the campuses, and appealing to students that India resides in villages, and I want young students to work in those villages.
I want this that these 17 problems cover several environmental issues, they cover several economic issues about incomes of people and inequality, they cover several social issues also and political issues. So they are covering a gamut of things, and we reduce them to 17. Now these 17 problems occur almost everywhere in the world.
Yeah, it felt like an ocean. But yeah, no, I just did it that day. I don't actually ever do that. That's the very first time I've ever tried something like that. But I didn't think it would stand. It was just a throwaway.
That's wonderful. Okay, Kyle, can I go to you? Don't even remember what it was. Right. Well, it was funny. Devika and I were talking about this before, and she said, "I don't remember any of the sentences in this book." Please let it be good.
नैनं चिन्तन्ति शस्त्राणि नैनं दहति पावकः न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यपो न शोषयति मारुतः अचेद्यो यामदाह्योऽयम् अक्लेद्यो सोष एव च नित्यः सर्वगतस्थाणुरचलोऽयं सनातनः.
Books between the adult books and the young people's books, and I've never written a sequel before. This was the first time, and it was with me from very early on. I finished the first draft of Boy in the Striped Pajamas on 30th of April 2004, and I remember the date because it was my birthday. And the day I finished it, I thought to myself, at some point in my life, I would like to go back to Gretel, Bruno's sister, and explore her life. And for all those years between then and I guess around 2020, when I started, 2021 maybe, when I started writing All the Broken Places, I kept a file on my computer called Gretel's Story, which was my working title for the book. And I wanted to go back to her for several reasons. One was that I felt I had left her at the end of that book in this very dark place. You know what happens to Bruno and his father and his mother, but I've left a 12-year-old child traumatized. And I was interested in the idea that in that first book, in Striped Pajamas, we were looking at the subject of the Holocaust from the most naive point of view possible, a 9-year-old who knows nothing about what's going on. Now, what would it be like to be the child of a commandant at a concentration camp, knowing what your father has done, being unable to get away from the fact that you love your father, and have gone through your entire life feeling this complex series of emotions of guilt, of shame, of complicity.
It was an outrage. It was perceived as an outrage by his colleagues at Los Alamos and intellectuals like actually George Bundy, who was a friend of Oppenheimer's. But the public at large just saw in this transcript a discredited man, a man who had been maybe a communist, maybe a spy, disloyal, untrustworthy, a philanderer, not faithful to his wife. I mean, it was personally devastating. And a public meeting in this secret city in Los Alamos. Oppenheimer allowed it to happen. He stood at the back of the room and let everyone argue. And then he stepped forward and he said, I want to remind you what Niels Bohr, the famous Danish physicist, the father of the quantum, said to me when he arrived in Los Alamos on the last day of 1943. He asked me, Robert, I have one question for you. Is it big enough? Is it big enough to end all war? And so he had this notion that this was, one weapon that could be dropped on and destroy a whole city, and that this would, people had to understand in this war that we could never fight total warfare like that ever again, because it would be Armageddon.
For man has closed himself up till he sees all things through narrow chinks of his cavern.
The story of us all, which really argues that we're fundamentally a migratory species, and that we used to recognize that on the whole, but that we don't anymore. I too am a bit of an imposter. It's not really a travel book, and my plans for travel were curtailed slightly by various lockdowns. I did, however, make it to a small town in southwest England called...
It is a geographical phenomenon. So you should understand, traditionally in India, people would travel from one water body to another water body. So they would travel, and the moment a river would come, they would not cross the river. It was considered not proper to cross the river, especially if you are a mendicant. So the only way to cross a river is to take a boat or a bridge. But a boat or a bridge is created by human beings. So it's man-made, it's artificial. So a holy man in India would never touch anything man-made. So they would not cross it. So they would look for the shallow part of the river where they could cross. You can just walk across the shallow part where there are rocks. That's called a tirth. That's the original meaning of the word tirth, and that is where holy men would stay. That is the place then the pilgrimage spot became, the temples emerged. So the tirthankar walked that path, but more importantly, it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor for crossing the river of life and figuring out, being calm and relaxed about life. And I think that's the best thing you learn in Jainism, is that just calm down. Uttejit hone ki koi avashyakta nahi hai. So I think one thing you learn from Jainism is how to be calm, composed. And if you see the images and artwork of Tirthankars, they're very calm, composed. And Rishabh Dev we speak about, all the Tirthankars look the same, which means they've given up identity.